The more experienced the player, the less likely they're going to give you answer on your question. That sounds completely backward because when somebody asks, should I make every cavalry hero like, for example, 5511, most of us expect an answer to be something simple like yes or no. Only this one, skip that one. I mean, that's what I used to expect also back in the days when we were sharing some ideas. But after watching enough experienced players playing, reading enough Discord discussion, and answering more and more questions myself, I noticed something that completely changed how I think about strategy. The best players rarely answer the question first. Instead, they ask another one. How many cavalry troops do you have? What season are you in? How many marches are you running? What are you trying to do? At first, that almost feels annoying, and no joke, is annoying. For me personally, a lot of time is actually annoying. Not directly in Call of Dragons, because here I get asked it, but in other place. But anyway, you ask a simple question, why not just give me a simple answer? But eventually I realized they weren't avoiding the answer, they were trying to understand the account. Because two players can ask exactly the same question and still need completely different advices. One player might only have enough troops for a single cavalry march, another already has 3 fully developed marches, one player is thinking about next season, another just wanted to survive this one player is trying to maximize the merits, another is trying to avoid filling the hospital every fight. Same question, completely different problem. And once I noticed that, I start realizing how often I was making exact the same mistake. I wasn't really looking for advice, I was looking for confirmation. I want somebody to tell me, yes, that's the right investment, without even asking whether I was solving the right problem at first place. And as content creator in Call of Dragons, I non-stop get this question. Should I do, for example, the latest one, Velen 5151, or should be like 5511? I mean, all those questions, I remember back in the days, me alone was also asking them when we was building our accounts. Obviously, there was not that many heroes, it was less heroes, but still, when we're playing, we want to be sure we're moving in the right direction, which is absolutely fine. There is no reason to feel bad if you ask a question. Even in majority of the cases, better ask a question from this to, make a mistake, and after this your resources are already gone and things like this. And somebody asked me about hero builds, but I first ask about their account. I really want to know their troop count, their season, are their goals before giving any kind of advice. And it's little hard, especially when I get something like a comment under my video, people asking me, yo, Burgas, is this good? Is that good? Or in my Discord, is this good or that good? So yeah, it's little hard at the end of the day to just give yes or no. One of the reasons I enjoy making videos like this is because they remind me that strategy games are never really solved. Every battle report, every Discord discussion, every question from you guys give me another way of looking at the game. That's honestly the part I enjoyed the most. So if you've been enjoying those kind of conversation and you do like to keep exploring Call of Dragons this way, subscribing and leaving a like is the easiest way to stay apart from them. That realization made me notice something even bigger. I don't actually think most players are asking about the heroes at the end of the day. It sounds like they are, but most of the time they're really asking something completely different. Think about a question like, should I invest in this hero? On the surface, that's about the heroes. But underneath it, it is the real question is usually, is this the best place to spend my resources? Those aren't the same question because heroes don't exist in isolation. They're connected through your artifacts, through your pet, through your troop count, season, spending, future plans, alliance, even the role you want to play in your kingdom. Experienced players understand all of that before they even think about recommending a hero. That's why the answer often sounds so different. One player gets told to invest immediately, another gets told to save everything. Neither answer is wrong. They're just solving different problems. And honestly, I think that's where so much confusion about tier lists come from. People compare heroes without realizing they're comparing completely different accounts. One player wants a highest possible merits giant, another wants a march that survives longer, another only has enough tokens for one legendary this entire season. Of course, those players won't have the same priority list. They're not disagreeing about the hero, they're disagreeing about what success actually looks like. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that experienced players aren't actually better because they know more builds. They're better because they diagnose the account before they diagnose the heroes. And once you notice that, you start hearing strategy conversation very differently. When a newer player asks what's the best cavalry march, they're looking for lineup. When a veteran hears that question, they're wondering something completely different. Best for what? Open field, rallies, merits, long-term investment, free-to-play, WoW spender, season 1, season 3. Suddenly that question, that simple question isn't simple anymore. It's actually 6 or 7 different questions hiding inside one sentence. That's why I think experienced players sometimes sound frustrating, not because they don't know the answer, because they know there isn't just one answer. The account changed the answer, the season changed the answer, the resource changed the answer. Even the mistakes you already made can change the answer. And honestly, the longer I play Call of Dragons, the less confident I've become in giving quick answers. Not because I've been learned the less, because I've been learned how much the context matter. And I can give couple examples about that. I remember one of the questions was of a player asking me, okay, Burgas, should I actually go for the daily bundles? And at first, I asked him what kind of spender he is, and he said he's WoW spender, but getting the daily is not that very WoW spender. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, what else you're actually getting? And he was told me that he get only the daily bundle. He was looking only for the daily bundle. He didn't actually get the monthly bundle, which for me is the best price. Now, after I thought, this actually changed my opinion because I was ready to give the answer. Yeah, daily bundle is great, very great. But then I saw he don't have the monthly. And by looking, he don't have the monthly, I have a second question. And this is, do you have the Titan Legacy? This is basically this bundle here. And then I saw he don't have the Titan Legacy. So my answer from the daily bundle, just answering the daily bundle, go to the monthly bundle, and from monthly bundle actually go to the Titan Legacy because the value of the Titan Legacy is extremely good. You get so many legendary tokens, medals, so much things, and at the end you even get one of the artifacts, which is absolutely crazy. So from a question, should I continue with this daily bundle, end up to completely different answer, just because I was able just to answer a couple more questions to understand the right position of the person asking me this question. And this is not only for the spending, it's also applying for the heroes. Somebody asked me, should I actually go with this hero? And for example, should I go with Velin or should I go with Toher or something like this? And at the same time, the person have like 600 mages, 600k mages, and he asked me for his second legion. If you have 600k mages, most likely you just need one legion. Stick to this one legion to actually get more troops at the end of the day. I mean, it's so complex to actually, give an answer. So, yo, guys, if you ask me something, don't get mad if I have some follow-up questions. It's not like I'm trying to be annoying, but I really want to see the whole picture to give the best advices for my small community here. That also explains something I noticed about the guides. People often say, this guide told me to build this hero. Then someone else, this guide is terrible. Most of the times, neither person is wrong. The guide simply wasn't written for both of them. A player with one march isn't playing the same game as someone who is having like 5 marches. A player saving for the next season shouldn't spend resources the same way as someone who is trying to dominate this season. Even for free-to-play players can need different advices depending on whether their account already is. And here is the thing with the free-to-play players, sometimes you may not even have the hero. Because to be fair, for example, Goresh, if you go from the skills, you're going to see that this bad boy is from Strongest Word. You're going to be able to get him for universal tokens or Wheel of Destiny. And this is the only places, Wheel of Destiny and Strongest Word, as a free-to-play to be able to get this hero. So it's not from Wikispin. So, it's very important, especially for free-to-play players, because they have very hard access to the heroes at the end of the day. So that's why I don't think strategy starts with heroes anymore. I think strategy starts with priorities, because once your priorities are clear, the investment usually becomes much easier. It's almost like heroes are final decision, not the first one. And that's completely changed the way I watched the battle reports also. I used to look at the heroes first. Now I find myself asking completely different questions. What was the player actually trying to accomplish? Because once you understand that, a lot of decisions that look strange suddenly become completely logical. And I'm going to share with you some one battle report that I actually changed by a lot. And I don't know if this actually battle report expire. But yeah, this is the battle report. I was very skeptical about using Nea with Kuma, but I actually decided to try it. And here is the thing, my pet did 123k, but before that, it was doing 2 times less. The only change I actually make for this pet, where is my pet? For my pet is actually adding this skill here. Advanced counter attack. 100% chance to do damage to target legion when casting counter strike. So the only thing I change is actually this one, and it double the damage it actually do. So this legion start making sense for me. And this battle report. Something that I notice also for Goresh and Skogul, I'm going to make a separate video about them and the way I'm playing with Goresh and not Goresh, Skogul, sorry, Goresh and Kuma to get some good merits. But anyway, that's actually one of the reasons I spent so much time reading the discussion in our Discord. We're having a Discord. 2 people can ask what sound like exactly the same question, and 5 minutes later you realize they're solving completely different problems. Those conversations constantly change my own assumption and make me rethink advice I probably would give a year ago. If you would like to continue today's discussion, compare your own account with other players, or just to see how different people approach the same discussion, come with us and join the Discord, link in the description. And after enough of those conversations, I started noticing something that I honestly wish I do understand much earlier. The strongest strategy players don't collect better answers, they collect better questions. Instead of asking what's the strongest hero, they ask what job do I actually need this march to do. Instead of asking what's the best artifact, they ask what weakness I'm trying to fix. And here is with the job. What job actually is doing or fixing this march. This march is if you don't have that much time playing, Call of Dragons, and at the same time you want to make some good amount of merits, you can basically just go with Nea and Kuma and get so much merits in short amount of time. Use your elixirs that you stockpile to this moment and continue when you have time to play. In the same time, your elixirs is going to generate, you're not losing any kind of merits. So yeah, this is what this march is going to do. And yeah, what is the better artifact? They ask what weakness I'm trying to fix. Instead of asking what's the meta, they ask, do the meta even apply to my account? I mean, I'm going to make a separate video about this meta because people get overhyped over meta heroes that just like that disappear in like 1 or 2 seasons after. Those questions sound less exciting. They don't make flashy YouTube titles, but they are usually questions that save your months of resources. And I think that's the biggest difference by copying strategy and actually understanding the strategy. And the funny thing is, I don't think this only changed the way you answer other people's questions. I think it changed the way you look at your own account. Because now, whether I catch myself asking, should I actually build this hero? I almost stop myself, not because the question is bad, but because I know there is another question hiding underneath it. What problem I'm actually trying to solve? Am I trying to gain more merits? Am I trying to reduce my hospital bills? Am I trying to prepare for the next season? Am I trying to build even better rally? Till this point, I'm not a rally leader. I want to point out here you need decorations. Here is the other great example. To be a better rally leader, you need decorations. So here we're not just talking about the heroes, we're not talking just the artifacts, we also talk about the third thing, which is pets and decorations. Pets and decorations have crazy influence over how one rally is performing. Or I'm just chasing whether everyone else happened to be building right now? The answer of that question usually change everything. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest traps in strategy games. We spend so much time looking for right answers that we forget to make sure we're asking the right question. I've been done to this. I have done this by myself. I have copy heroes. I have copy artifacts. I have copy investments. Sometimes for testing purpose. Sometimes just because I didn't have time and I see somebody else is having the time. I see the results and I like the results and I copy the things. And looking back, I don't think the build was the problem. The problem was I copied someone else's solution without knowing what the problem they're solving. That doesn't mean guides aren't useful. They absolutely are. Battle reports are useful, tier lists are useful, recommendations are useful, but I don't think they're supposed to replace thinking. Because to be fair, I make one poll on my channel where I basically ask the people from where they get their advice. I mean, who they are actually listening. Are they listening some well, or are they thinking and testing their heroes? Are from YouTube guides? And the answer was, I'm going to surprise you right now. The answer was, I copy well builds. And this is the most horrible thing you can actually do, because if you're free to play, most likely your account is not like a well account. But this is a topic for other video. Just people are copying something that is working for somebody else, and it's not guaranteed that it's going to work for them. And after this, they get frustrated They think the hero is the problem and all these things, yada yada yada. I mean, I don't want to go that much in this rabbit hole, but it's like this. They're supposed to give you better question to ask about your own account. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from watching experienced players from the beginning in season 1. Even till these days, I also watch the experienced players. I mean, I don't think I'm the best of the best or something like this. I still learn and I'm trying to, express what I learn. It wasn't their hero choices, it wasn't their artifact, it wasn't their battle report. It was the way they approach every decision. They almost never rush it for an answer. They slow down long enough to understand the problem first. And at once I start doing the same thing. Before we finish, I just want to say thank you to everybody who is already supporting the channel through the membership. It generally gives me more time to test different ideas, compare builds, and dig into the mechanics before I share what I learned here. If you enjoy those investigation style videos and you do like to support what I'm doing, you can also get early access to the new videos and members only content as part of membership below the video. So next time you're about to ask, should I build this hero? Try asking yourself one more question. What problem am I actually trying to solve? Because I have a feeling the answer to that question will change your investment far more than another tier list ever will. And now I'm curious, what one piece of advice you ever heard that completely changed after someone learned more about your account? And I do love to hear your experience with the comments, because if there is one thing in this game keeping teaching me, is that the good strategy doesn't begin with an answer. It begins with asking better questions.